Welcome to Lost Without Japan, a travel podcast about the life-changing experiences of exploring Japan and those moments we would be lost without. For your listening pleasure, allow me to introduce your very own Kanko Guido, Michael.
Welcome to a special Lost Without Japan podcast first, which for you, the listener, means more content than we normally have with our standard bi-weekly schedule. Our bi-weekly podcast is mainly focused on, getting you to Japan for that first time or making that next adventure to Japan be even better than your last. These episodes, they're going to fall when scheduling allows, but tentatively, maybe a bi-monthly schedule. As we figure things out, I really hope you don't mind putting up with me, putting up with the show, because I don't know about our layout. It's changing. And if you listened to me from 3 years ago and you listen to me now, there's been some changes, there's been some differences, and I met a lot of great people along the way. And it's those people that I've met along this way that has made me want to reach back out and do some sort of format where I can keep on touching base with people. And I'd like to thank you all for giving me a bit of your time today. And it's not just me this time. If I know, have someone else that's coming, and I know you're going to be like, Mike, what's happened? There's weekly episodes coming out. You're talked with Laura. She came out, and that was an extra episode. And you have this one that's coming out. We'll get into this in a little bit later, but I'm of that frame of mind, man. Like, if you got negative things that are going on in your life or you're struggling a bit, one easy thing you can do is put out extra positivity into the world. And I got to tell you, the people I've met on this show that I've talked to and grown to call, like a friend, they do that. And I don't know about you all, but those people that you can count on in life to be there, or, when things get busy, provide a chance to be like, hey, man, every 2 months, you and me, we're getting together, touch base, share with you all that's going on. And I'm going to be selfish in this. This is mainly about me. This is me. This is about me and wanting to hang out with this gentleman that you're going to recognize as soon as you hear his voice, if you've listened to any of our episodes, especially within this last year. So, Maurice, welcome, my friend. How have you been?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank all of your listeners for not immediately bailing the second they heard my voice. I hope all of you are doing well. I'm doing well. Um, if I could give like a very short, brief, uh, I guess, encapsulation of my Kickstarter journey, that went out without a hitch. Everything went out extremely well, from sending out the digital books first, and then all the additional physical books went out from every corner of the planet. We're talking Spain, Japan, Germany, the U.S., of course, uh, all over the place. And I can't be more proud. I can't be more proud of what happened. I'm so happy that I was given an opportunity to kind of showcase that body of work to people, and I'm glad to connect with people. And I just wanted to say that I wanted to thank all of you for making it a success. Uh, I don't think it would have gotten across the line without you lending your platform to me. Um, and I am in your debt. So whenever the time comes you need me to go out and swing for you, I'm definitely going to do that, man.
Love it, buddy. I love it. It was awesome to see. It's just you know, being able to be a part of that just has me looking forward to whatever ends up being next for you.
Mm,
And
mm.
that's great. Like lately for me, um, my kids and I, we've been back into like whatever it was, 2017, maybe 2018. I forget when it was, but Pokemon Go, when that was big, you know, we've been back in with that, like, with a vengeance, with my sister, my son, my daughter. In fact, today's the Super Bowl, and what were we doing before the Super Bowl? But we were out, like, for an event, at the mall, walking around, and then we went to a park, walked that, like, just, like, did all this different stuff, and, it's been great. I said that part has been awesome. I've been doing a lot of, like, Call of Duty with my sister. It's been nice. Like, she's her and her wife, they're going to be moving to the Philippines at some point. Could be within like the next 5 years, could be a little bit longer than that. But having that platform where we can still connect, you know, and still spend some time together, even if it's, halfway around the world, figuring out a time for us to hop on and do that, has been huge. And we were talking a little bit before the trip, like, I'm going to do everything I can to make my trip this summer happen. I'm not giving up on that, even if things are trying to make that a little more challenging than I'd like it to be, or a lot more challenging than I'd like it to be. But I'm gonna get it figured out. If it's not this summer, this fall, like sometime this year, I'm gonna step back. On there, even if it's going to Hiroshima and popping back home. So like a lot of that's been going on, and I've been doing a lot of like upcoming interviews for the show. I just recorded one yesterday with another Kickstarter, an author that I met at not CodCon. That was back. It's back when I used to play D&D. Gen Con, slightly bigger. We met, and she introduced me to Susan Span, who is an author, and I had on the show, so it was her time to be on. And when you're listening to this, that episode came out like 2 weeks prior, so you already know what I'm talking about. That man, I've been buying like a couple extra lotto tickets. I'm not gonna lie. I've been buying those megas, those Powerballs. I don't need much. I'm not gonna be, greedy, but enough to get me like, maybe my condo paid off and like a trip. That'd be cool. But yeah, the other part is like wanting to start this show segment so that like you and I get a chance to hang out every other month, and then I can use this to catch up with some other people back from the beginning that I just we message, we email, you know what I mean? But, like, it'd be nice just to
Mhm.
have, like, a quick, in and out together.
Right
It's all
on,
good, man.
right
How
on.
about you?
So you your goals are so much more ambitious than mine. Um, I've been sitting in the house playing video games. Recently, I purchased Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and we're back with our trusty hero Ichiban Kasuga. And that was one of the original, well, I'm not gonna say original Like a Dragon, but essentially Yakuza 7, which became Like a Dragon. That was one of my favorite games of all time. I think I put in around 100 hours in that game, and I just fell in love with it. And now the sequel's out now, and this time it's taken the group of people to Hawaii, which is completely new for the series. It's a massive game. I'm at hour 65 now, just absolutely loving it. Just I couldn't be happier with a sequel for a video game. I know it's very domestic of me to talk about how much I love this video game. Um, but no, it's quite good, and um, something that you mentioned before we started recording is that tell people that they're doing well, give people those compliments, things like that. There is a big chunk of that. If you get around to playing this game, the appreciation of those in your life, there is a segment in this game where it's like you got to hold back the tears every time you play it. I'm not going to tell you anything more,
Yep.
but if there is any kind of endorsement to play that game, as you and I are getting, your early 40s, I'm going to be 40 soon. I think that we take stock, or we take a different perspective on our life, where we see what our life is and where it could be, and what it's going to be for like in our 50s and our 60s and things like that. You look at it through a different lens, and there is a very mature, reflective, introspective kind of lens on this game that I think that you will appreciate. I'm not going to say anything else, but it's one of the most mature, as far as maturing, aging people games I've ever played. Um, there's a lot to take in, and they knocked it out the park. Um, and that's all I can really say about that. But yes, please go. Anyone who's listening to this, please at least take a chance on the demo for Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. You will not be disappointed. It's a fantastic quality game made by Sega. Um, really, really great. And then also, now that Ganbate is done and shipped out and finished, I've gotten this bug to create something new because I'm a creative person at heart. I just can't not be creating something. I start to feel like I'm incomplete or antsy or there's pressure building within me. The last time I was in Japan, which was in December, yes, December, the first 2 weeks of December, I met up with a model who was really talented. Her name is Haruka, very, very talented, very unique look. And we were discussing the idea of creating, or at least doing a small project, or her being the subject around a more narrative, fictional narrative style book. And we took some demo photos, and they were all fantastic. And I was extremely happy with them, but the structure of this book, because she would be kind of the sole focus or one of the main focuses, it was like it's this can't be like Ganbate where I meet up with someone for a couple of hours, right?
Yeah.
Uh, or just once or twice here or there, or this she would be such a major proponent of it. We're talking I would have to meet up with her. She and I would have to collaborate for 4 or 5, 6 days.
Yes.
And so producing that from America and scheduling with her, and then also doing like scouting for locations, and if I need to hire a makeup artist or a wardrobe or any of that other stuff, has made this project, even though it's one person, it's made it so much more like a film production. And I've done film production before, and I hate producing, but it's not bad. Uh, we all know about the checking off the boxes to make sure that you have permission to be there. You have permission to shoot photos there or videos there. You have the proper crew, the proper props, things like that. Or how you're going to handle food, transportation, pay, are you going to like taxes, permits, all that stuff. So that's on the table now, but it's all very exciting. And I'm hoping that she and I can schedule that because, of course, she has her own job.
Yes.
She I believe that she's a fitness instructor out in Yokohama, I believe. So I think she has her own practice that she runs. So it's going to be the biggest hurdle is probably going to be scheduling, but I think we can make it work.
Man, I'd be excited to see anything. And yeah, yeah. I'm already down. I'll be camping out in front of Kickstarter already, or just whatever platform you go to. Like back with the Star Wars movies with our tents and things like that, just waiting for that movie to come out, man.
Hey, Maurice, I know you just gave a bunch of thanks to everyone that helped support your Kickstarter and your photo book. But one thing that you shared with me, I think, is something worth talking about for sure, my friend, because this is pretty like huge recognition. If I was written up anywhere for my podcast and the name of the podcast was Japan, podcast.com, like, and they're like putting me up there like, man, he's doing great work. He's amazing. Look at all that he did. Like, I'd be on cloud nine. So I got to figure I'm going to include this link to the article for anyone that wants to read this. But Maurice, what would you like to say about this?
Well, thank you. Again, I keep saying thank you to everybody, but it made my day. I got the notification in the middle of the afternoon. Got the email said, "Hey, look, we've written a review about your book and it's up. Please check it out." And I read it and I was over the moon. It's interesting because at photobookjournal.com, uh, it's it's run by professional photographers. It's run by photography professors, uh, people that have been published several times, people that write about photography, people that live this, and so it's getting praise from people who bought my book or my friends or my family, and they're like, "I really connect with this." That feels great, but there is a completely different feeling when basically stewards of the craft are also saying, "Hey, look, this is pretty good." So my feelings were completed by that other kind of like validation where it's just like, this is insane how uplifting and positive and introspective and almost like thought provoking the review was. It was really something else. And I've never met Rudy Vega. I know I spoke to the leader or the owner of photobookjournal.com, and his name is Jerry, and he's a great gentleman. But when we were speaking initially, he was like, "Hey, the concept of your book, we have just the right person. He's been to Japan several times. He's photographed Japan several times. Um, he's the guy to really kind of look at your book, kind of formulate an opinion or a review. He's the guy to write up about it." And I was kind of nervous because I did go to his site, and I forget Rudy Vega's website link. Maybe we can include that as well because he's an amazing photographer. And when I looked him up, and I'm like, this guy is gonna review my book. He's so good. He's excellent. He's a fantastic photographer. And I'm like, he's gonna just rip me a new one. you know, I really thought that he was just gonna be like, who is this guy trying to photograph Japan? But it was the complete opposite. And he really connected with my kind of emotional, individual kind of perspective, uh, encounter, kind of like remembrance photo book. He picked up on it immediately, and he gave me a write up that I could show my mom. Like so,
Yeah, man.
I really have to just commend him and thank him for lending his words and his expertise, his eye to look over my book. I might even print out this review because it made my day. It really really did. Um, and then after I got it back and I read it through, I emailed him, which would be the first time he and I ever spoke. I didn't want to reach out to him while he was doing it because I didn't want to taint it. I didn't want to meddle or get in the way because good or bad, his review was going to be his review. And I wanted to get his honest feedback because the feedback, if constructive, is a path forward. Like, hey, look, you did this that's kind of weak or didn't come across, or do more of that. That's where your strong suits are, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to hear those things. I didn't want to get in the way by meddling with him and bothering him. So after the review came out, I reached out to him and I was just like, thank you so much. And we chatted a little bit about Eiji Ohashi, who is a Japanese photographer, because I said, hey, look, some of your work reminds me of Eiji Ohashi, in particular, Roadside Lights, which is a book that's really great. And he responded back and he goes, Roadside Lights is one of my favorites. Like, he's like, I want to see those prints in person one day. So immediately from the get go, within our first conversation, I recognized that me and this guy were like on the same wavelength, and it's really, really cool. Like I said, I'm over the moon with the response and the connection with the friends and family and people in the Kickstarter, and I'm absolutely over the moon with the reception it's gotten from professional photographers. I couldn't be happier. I really, really couldn't be happier. It's pretty dang cool.
You look at that, getting a tattoo of a QR code, I'd get one, straight link to this article, buddy, if this was me. You know what I mean? Like, not the Rickroll, things that you might see for stuff that's here, but shoot, yeah. Like, anybody goes, hey, do you have anything to back up what you're doing? You're going to be like, yeah, just 1 second, slide up your sleeve and show them this code. Yeah, man, just. But I also like the fact that in this, when I was reading it, it's not just me. Because one of the things that they said was, you're encountering a culture through the fresh eyes of an outsider, and having that like personal interaction, that emotional connection that someone makes through their travels, and like basically it's becoming your own. And that's 100% how I felt looking through your book. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. But after flipping through that, I 100% felt as if I could walk up to any of these people and they'd be my friend, from like our interactions and our things we had. But for you, my man, like, this is huge. This is awesome, and I got to say, it's only the first of others to come, and I'm pretty awesome, my friend. Pretty awesome.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. I love it, man. I'm too happy right now.
If you haven't bought the lotto ticket, my friend, now's the time. Buy me plane ticket if you end up winning. That's all I ask. Nothing big, buddy. First class. First class, that's it. That's all.
No, no, we'll get some of those good air light flashes. It's all good.
I'll hold the lights for you, buddy. I'll hold those lights, light screens, whatever you want me to do. I can go take your film to be developed. Don't forget about me.
No, it's really cool. This is encouraging, right? I would like to step back away from me personally and my project and include any and all creatives. Like, really, you can build this thing, whatever it is. You really can take the seed of an idea, and if you water it enough and plant it and surround it in the right soil, and by soil I mean the right people, making it people aware of it, present, out there. If you cast a wide enough net, and if you're grateful and responsive and open, I really think that whatever you want to do will start to come together and grow. And this book, who would have thought from some of the very first photos that this is going to be something that was getting me like talked about, or talking with you, or you letting your ear and your audience and bringing awareness to it. It's beyond my wildest dreams. It feels great. And um having people ask me like, hey, where can I buy this thing, like where is it for sale? And that's wild, because I'm not even thinking about that. And it was never like oh, this is to make money. It was never about that. It was always like, here's this thing, I think people would appreciate it. If you give me money on the front end, you'll have a book on the back end, right? Please coalesce around me, and let's do this. And people did. They did. And um, it was a success on every front. Absolutely 100% a success from A to Z. And I'm so completely grateful for that.
One of the things I was thinking about was whatever the segment is going to be called. I want it to be called something. I don't really have a name for it yet. Good Times was one possibility after my favorite bar that closed in Hiroshima. Messiah, who's the gentleman that used to run that, he's going to be opening up a new bar. I don't quite have a location and name of that yet. But if you go to click on Hiroshima Google Map links, you'll see Good Times, the name, but that's it.
Hmm.
Like, there's nothing else to click on there. So, is what it is. I got photos and audio that I took from that.
Hmm.
Something along the lines of like, hey, if it was called Good Times, we could begin the segment off with like, pull up a stool and your favorite adult beverage and join us, at Good Times Bar in Hiroshima as a possible opening, because the place doesn't exist anymore. Um, I also thought about, since when you and I recorded, we got to be able to meet in Tokyo, calling things rats in the park. Just from that time when we saw rats walking, like just going by, just chilling as we're just like talking back and forth. Wings in Tokyo, Film Washi, which is a discontinued like French film brand or something like that. I don't
Hmm.
know. I just is like trying to come up with like a name to call this besides working title. you know.
Good Times is a pretty good title. I feel like there's an emotional context there. It's a fitting name for the actual discussions. Um, I think it's pretty solid. Of course, do what you're gonna do, but Rats in the Park is a no. We can't do that. We can't do Rats in the Park. Um, so of course the final decision is up to you, but my vote goes to Good Times. I think it's very fitting. I think it's a great name.
Like, I definitely, man, like that's the one kind of like, have that connection to. But if you're listening and have like your own connection or own thoughts or whatever it is that you'd like to share with this, because again, we'll have like a couple month break in between, then reach out. Uh, message me on Instagram, send me an email at lostwithoutjapan@gmail.com. Put in your own thought, your own suggestions, and we'll take it from there. One of the things I wanted to kind of talk about was just recent Japan findings. Like, since we've talked back, if there's anything that you've kind of stumbled across, be it in like Discord groups, the internet, news, like, is there anything that you've had like pop up with you that uh, you want to share?
Oh, so a couple things. The first one, and this is kind of just small potatoes, but uh, in Japan, the Japanese citizens haven't exactly been super excited about the massive return of tourists. Obviously, there's been lots of conversations about over tourism and tourists placing, in especial in Kyoto, especially a strain on the infrastructure when it comes to public transit, the buses, things like that. Um, and that's been interesting to me because a lot of the numbers, while they have returned to around 90 to 95% pre-pandemic tourist numbers, they haven't exceeded that, right? So what that says to me is that to a certain degree, a lot of the citizens were enjoying the fact that tourists were gone.
Yeah.
Um, that lull they became accustomed to, right? Um, and now that tourists are back in force, those old wounds, the old stressors have returned and then some. But again, they had not surpassed old numbers, still fewer, and people are kind of feeling it. Um, and that's interesting to me. That being said, though, uh, I think a lot of people uh, were traveling now because they call it revenge tourism, right? Where people are just traveling for no matter what, they don't care about the price they're paying. They're gonna go because for potentially years they couldn't go anywhere, right? Um, Now people are just out in force. But I think that also may bring a lot of bad actors, people who weren't particularly interested in Japan or how to behave in Japan before. Now you just have anybody, um, and that probably has its downsides too. But at the end of the day, Kyoto is a city that I believe, without tourism, is running in the red.
Yes.
They need it to survive, from what I understand. And so that's a very fine and delicate kind of relationship that you have to kind of balance where a lot of these older citizens who are probably property owners, who are politically involved, who vote, who make their voices known, are like, these people are getting on our nerves. But then you have the city officials who are like, we get that. We need their money.
Yes.
All of this, a big chunk of this will come to a halt if they don't bring their money. So that's always been kind of interesting to me. But at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff would be solved, and that's why I like your day trip so much. Um, a lot of these problems of over tourism would be solved if people went somewhere other than Tokyo, Kyoto, or Osaka. The fact that the vast majority of tourists in Japan don't go anywhere else is the source of this problem. I know that we all see the content created about Tokyo. That's great. You don't have to make your entire trip Tokyo. You don't have to. Um, but as far as content goes, and I'll say this about the content creators, a lot of this, a lot of the comfort that people feel about going to a particular place across the planet is because someone has made a roadmap for them, right? To not goof up, to not feel like they're completely out in the wilderness, right? um, a lot of content creators, because those other places are low engagement locations, they say it's not worth it for me to make this content about the Inaka, right?
Yep.
And that's unfortunate. Those places aren't any less worthy or aren't any less interesting. It's just they're not going to get you the YouTube clicks that you want, so they just don't make it, which is unfortunate. But anytime someone is upset about over tourism or the Shinkansen being crowded or the Tokyo trains are being crowded, that could all be fixed if more international tourists would go elsewhere. It would be solved overnight. Um, it really, really would. And that's it is what it is. So the next time you go to Japan, maybe thinking about listening to one of Mike's road trip or day trip episodes, maybe taking a detour, going somewhere that you wouldn't normally go to explore because also a lot of those places, their economies are struggling too. They need that money.
Yep.
So think about that as well. And everything outside of Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka is uh, sizably or very noticeably cheaper.
Yes.
Your accommodations, your food, your transit, everything is much cheaper. So if you're willing to go somewhere outside of those cities, you could have a larger trip, a longer trip, a trip with more sightseeing places if it costs money, more days, whatever. Just food for thought. Um, because if you're someone who's been to Kyoto, and I avoid Kyoto because I don't want to stand in a crowd of 8,000 other people for 4 hours. I just don't want that. And I don't know very many people who do. I know you want to see Kyoto, but do you want to see it that bad? And I think for some people, maybe the answer is no. So maybe think about some of those other places.
One of the things I found like recently is wool socks, buddy. Hiking
Awesome.
extra cushion wool socks are lovely, buddy. Lovely. Got them when I went up to go visit my dad. There was some hiking that was out by him, and what I have for Illinois, which is mainly flat, was drastically not enough for doing what was out there. And I love the fact that these socks are made uh, to be worn like 12 times before you wash them. Hand wash. But just imagine like how much cut down in just removing extra socks from your bag. It's little stuff, but that stuff adds up. So, like,
Hmm.
I could bring 2 pairs of socks for 24 days. You know what I mean? Like, something like that, and even if I'm not there for 24 days, throw in a couple other, my normal, bamboo fiber socks that I have, but, like, anything you could do to save weight and cut down on, and then they're comfortable, Maurice, man, let me tell you, it is like an extra layer of cushion, and when you're on your feet for as long as you are, like running from place to place or subway to subway or train to train, like anything you can do to add quality of life on your trips, it's huge. And REI was the place that I found these at. They have like a $30 membership, and it was like you got a $30 credit back. And so I just used that to put it towards like a couple of these socks, and I just threw them in my travel door, and I'm just excited to be able to use them. The other was, I found an RV rental that was actually it's gonna be, talked about in one of the episodes here, like, probably before this, but for those of you that have missed it or haven't listened to it yet, but there's a car rental place like Heisei Car Rental, and they rent RVs to people that speak English or other languages, and it's like, where are you gonna find this? And the rates, Maurice, are great, bud. Like, I was doing the day trip research for Shikoku and the Kagawa prefecture, that area that's its own island, smallest prefecture and stuff like that. And a lot of these small islands that are off this area, they don't have a lot of lodging. There's not a lot of stuff that's there, but one of the islands that I started doing this research for, bud, you can for $2 or $4, and maybe not even dollars, like 200 to 400 yen a night, you can get a camp spot that is on a beach. Like, just you could be in Japan on a beach for 400 yen. Like, where in the world do you get a beach and a view and a spot for like less than $4? Like, and the RV rental, they rent you the iPass is the best way I can describe it for those, that live in the US states. Like when you're on the toll road, you have that little pass that goes through, it scans, you pay, it comes off your credit card. Same thing for Japan, they provide it for you. And they set up your, navigation in English, and, like, you go through, do all these tolls, and when you drop it back off, you just pay the balance of what's there. So it's one less interaction, it's one less something that's there. and they provide for a very reasonable amount of money insurance. So, like, if you get into an accident, it's 0 copay. Like, you blow a tire, you need a tow, you have the unfortunate thing that you go off-road with the vehicle and need you know what I mean? Like, all this different stuff that could happen, like, for not much, and it's one of those things where I was like, "Man, like, this is suddenly" I wanna say it was, like, around, $120, like, 125 bucks a day. That's a hotel, man,
Mhm.
for a lot of places, and I'm not gonna be on
Woo!
the beach. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna be sitting there with this stuff, so, like, it's like, I just, so excited about that, and I like, the only other thing is, like, both of my places, my favorite bars in Hiroshima, either closed or are under, like, new ownership. So, like, both my
Mhm.
friends, Messiah and and Locke, they were both, like, going to different places. So when I go next time, it's gonna be different, but still same people.
Mhm.
So just those are kinda like my random, Japan, stuffs, I guess, that have stood out to me the most, like, since we talked last.
So, can I piggyback on
Please,
that for a
please,
second?
please, buddy.
That sounds awesome. You know, my little rant earlier about taking a different type of trip, you just took that and just like knocked it out the park. Whenever, because I watch a good amount of Japan content, I'm sure most people that listen to your podcast do as well. Um, I don't think I've ever seen much Japan beach content. It, I know it's out there. It has to be. How could it not be? But as far as Western made English language beach content, I just think it's kind of an underserved niche. And here you are, you're like, hey, look, these are all these resources available to you as a, a, a tourist,
Yep.
insurance, the pass, all that stuff. This beachfront plot that you can rent for very little money. That is a lot of the pieces that would go into making a very unique, very different Japan trip, and that's really, really awesome.
And it's like if I wasn't like, for doing the research to find this, it's like you start like finding it's like I found there's also some lodging that was there that's like 3 or 4 rooms, right? And it's a German
Hmm.
speaking gentleman that has a Japanese wife and he has some English and has like some other stuff to go with people. But you start finding things and you start logging these things. It's just like, yeah, getting out of Tokyo, getting out of these places, you can actually find people to interact with that can speak Korean, Chinese, whatever it is that you're coming across with and really find something. Cause again, like, man, like if anybody had this as like, I'm going to Japan, I'm gonna stay on a beach, you know, how much is this gonna cost me? It's gonna be more than $4 a night. Or even if you tack all that stuff on, like 130 bucks a night, if with your RV rental and stuff like that, like you're just not gonna find it. So it is
Hmm.
can't wait, man. Can't wait. It's just like stuff that you keep on adding to that list of stuff to do. It's just like I love it, man. I love it.
That's awesome. That is so cool. And then something else that I came up with, speaking of people traveling around,
Yes.
Japan apparently finally is going to allow a digital nomad visa. And that is a big deal for a lot of people who can work remotely. I know quite a few people. You mentioned that your sister might move into the Philippines. There's quite a few digital nomads who live in the Philippines. The Philippines, Vietnam, uh, Cambodia, other parts of Asia, because the cost of living is so much more reasonable compared to other Western nations. So Japan is now joining this long list of other countries that allow digital nomads to live and work there. And there's a few requirements that I think are kind of sketchy, but Japan is going to do the Japan thing. Like for instance, it's only for 6 months,
Yep.
and you have to be making $68,300 a year US, which is interesting to me because uh, the average Japanese citizen makes like $40,000 a year. That's salary man.
Yeah.
The average woman makes like 30,000, 27,000, something like that. Even salary men, I believe an associate of mine told me she's a lot of salary men at retirement age are making $50,000, $51,000 a year. it's very blatant that, and it's very clear that they're targeting for people that make way more than the average Japanese citizen,
Yes.
which is kind of odd to me. But I asked a buddy of mine who's in Japan a lot, and he goes, "Well, they do that because they want to make sure that people don't come over here and they're struggling,
Yes.
and they end up putting a strain on a lot of the social services." It's like, well, you should be able to more than secure if you want to try to get this, because you're not a citizen, you're probably not paying taxes. Those social services should be for people that are paying taxes, that are citizens. And I get that. 68,000, especially when you're in Asia, you don't need that kind of money in Asia. You don't. You just don't. There are people who I know, some digital nomads who are in the Philippines, who probably make $30,000 a year, and they're living quite fine.
Yes.
Uh, but Japan is like, nah, you guys got to be making a chunk. 68,000 is more than the national average for Americans,
Yes.
for individual income. So they really are asking for people on the higher end, and good for them. I thought about applying for it because I would qualify for it, but it's 6 months. 6 months is a tourist visa is 3 months,
Right.
and you can get a tourist visa renewed by just going to South Korea for the weekend
Yes.
and then coming right back. And so some people are like, why would I jump through those hoops? Because a most likely it's going to be hard to get housing rented to you anyway, because most of them in Japan, if you're talking about Tokyo in particular,
Year.
they don't want to rent to foreigners very much. A lot of the leases start at 2 years minimum, which your visa would not apply or apply to. And then, from what I understand, if I'm correct, the nomad visa can't run concurrently. You have to leave for a year to renew it again.
Wow.
Right. So it's just like, that's cool, but why would you do that? So I don't know what the answer to this, but they're making strides. I think that's the most important thing to recognize, is that Japan is a country that embraces change, but it embraces change very slowly. So if this first batch of people that get this visa in April are good stewards and they make it look great, hopefully they'll either lower the bar or extend the time to make it something a little more worthwhile and a little more accessible.
Yeah. Because that'd be. There's so many questions you don't know until it actually happens. Like goes in place.
Right.
Because it'd be one of those things. Like I looked at this and I haven't dug deeply into it, but it's one of those things. Like when I retire, being able to do something like this for 6 months after I retire, waiting to find a job that I could get into, gives me that time of like, okay, my retirement plus me earning some money there. Okay, like I could hit that, that point there and be able to be there and then use that to find something, else long term to help settle down. As opposed
Hmm.
to that, like you said, like that tourist visa where it's 3 months, pop to Korea, come back, hope everything happens. You know what I mean? Like, because you hear stories of people that do that, hop over and hop back, and they're like, no, you know what I mean? Like, but it'd be one of those things like, could I go digital nomad and then go tourist? Like, what could I, like, what could I do to, try to go this out? But they do in some regards seem to be a bit behind, and I think maybe that 10 or 12 years would be that sweet spot for me
Hmm.
to, finally get there, and I'll just carry my podcast right on over, buddy. And it's like, record in person. I wouldn't mind that at all.
No, no, that sounds great, man.
When we were in Tokyo last, that one Starbucks that my son and I went to, that's in Shibuya, that overlooks the Scramble Crossing,
Right.
shut down after we
Yes.
got there. And both my son and I are like, man, kind of cool that we went there. We were able to catch this before it closes. And then I saw it's actually could be potentially reopening in the same spot or in like a similar location to that as well. And
Hmm.
I it was I could see them totally doing something different because did you ever go to that location, Maurice? Like the
I
to
did. I went once. It was very cool.
it's super cool. Love the view, but it was super small. You know what I mean? Like to try to find a after you go through that line to get your stuff to try to find a spot,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd have so many people that were just in that spot. So I know turnover couldn't be much, but maybe having that chance again because it was just so much fun to just like sit there, see everything that's there, and have that experience, which is something I'm like I would totally do again. And then kind of on that like tourist portion of stuff is that like I know like one of the things that they're going to try is like entrance fees, to different places potentially, or and it's and one thing I keep on wanting to like say is it's not just targeted at us, people from
Mm-hmm.
outside of Japan. Like what a lot of these taxes or these fees are for tourists, and that means
Mm-hmm.
people that don't live in that area. So like if you don't
Mm-hmm.
actually live within, Kyoto or live
Mm-hmm.
within, Yamanashi prefecture and you're coming from Osaka, you're coming from wherever, you're going to be paying this. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
not just us. But one of the things was to try to prevent crowding, bullet climbing,
Yeah.
and all that different things for Fuji. Is they're talking about trying to add a you know fees and things to this, which would be about like $2,000 toll or $13.80 to hike the path, which begins from the fifth station and kind of like other like voluntarily, you could add on conservation fees that you could do as well. But what they're going to do is try to have potentially, again, this is all up in the air and could change, is that they'd have a gate constructed at the start of the trail. And the gate would be shut from 4 p.m. to 3 a.m. With possibility of closures, like also like if they hit a limit, let's say the limit's 3,000 people for the day, 4,000 people for the day. Um, they're just not going to allow anybody else. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, try to prevent people climbing overnight, try to prevent overcrowding. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's here, and I'm open for anything, man. Like, anything that's going to be more money. Because a lot of the stuff that I found was like, hey, you're the cost that these areas for the most popular things, like, exceeds whatever comes into them from people visiting.
Mm-hmm.
So they're constantly at a deficit. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not against any of these things, and I think I'd take like we were talking before, like of my plans for when I go next, it's like trying to hit all these different places that are here, that are different stuff to go to, but I don't see it as a negative. And if
Mm-hmm.
anything helps support this and if people say, "Hey, these people that are visiting have to pay. They're doing things. They're being held accountable. They're trying to limit the number of people. They're trying to limit overcrowding." Like whatever that looks at, if that starts bringing some positive thoughts, will towards everyone that's there, 100%, up for it, my friend. And do you have anything else to add, like article wise? Anything else that you found?
No, but I wanted to add on to your Fuji gate thing.
Let's.
Um,
It's gonna be a big one.
did you did you see any of the footage when tourists came back and they were climbing Fuji?
I only limited. I've not seen a lot, buddy.
Oh man, it looked like not a lot of fun because there were so many people packed onto the mountain. It was just like solid, just lines of just people. It didn't look like a hike,
Okay,
so to speak. It looked like a slog because there were so many people, back to back to back to back to back to back, just slowly walking up. And I know when I think of climbing a mountain or hiking a mountain, that wasn't my image that I had in my head, right?
100%.
Um, so if it can kind of preserve that, also trash was an issue. From what I understand, lots and lots of trash was on the mountain, and I think that in this particular case, these fees and these limits, as far as number of hikers, I think both of those are actually pretty big positives, in my opinion. Um, I don't see a downside to them. And I think that it might have been on one of your daytime episodes about there being a small fee, a few hundred yen, maybe
Yep.
500 yen for a ferry,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because it was running at a deficit, right? Um, the tax, the fee, whatever, is a good idea.
Yes.
Um, if it makes these things viable, so they can, pay someone to drive the ferry or man the ferry, maintenance,
Yep.
all the safety checks, whatever. Those are things that we should all want to invest in.
Yep.
It's not greed. It's purely something for infrastructure, and those are things that I would definitely give my stamp of approval.
100%, my friend. 100%. I 100% get behind that. I'll include in our show today, our little talk, like links for a lot of the articles, a lot of things we talked about. They'll be in the show notes, so you can kind of glance at them as well. Normally we try to end. I'd like to try to keep this around 30 minutes, just something short on here. But we have a mystery bonus segment that I've not told Maurice about before we get into our outro and go. But I'm going to call this segment "Why Maurice is Wrong," and we're just going to keep that like as a title, and I can just add in, why he's wrong. As it comes up. It may not be every other month, but we'll find something. But today's "Why Maurice is Wrong" is about tea. Maurice says he's not much of a tea person. That is wrong. I don't have any factual information about this or anything to support this with. But I asked one, podcast host, maybe myself about it, and we were in agreement, that this is wrong. That's it, Maurice. Would you like to, like do anything to defend yourself from this onslaught that you clearly didn't see coming?
Okay, okay, okay. Let me compose myself. Um, so it's interesting because I was born in New York, and sweet tea there is unsweetened, just tea, right? Then I moved down to the South, and it's like just drenched in sugar. It's like drowning in sugar, right? And then you go to Japan, and you have tea, and I remember getting these green tea bottle, and I'm the first time I'm like, what the hell is this? uh, it caught me by surprise that uh, people drink this unsweetened green tea, and I'm coming around slightly for fun. They enjoy this. It tastes, for lack of a better term, earthy, right?
Grassy, earthy, yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, so so I think it's called ocha in Japanese green tea. And there's also that I've never seen before in my life, where I got it because I kept searching for sweetened tea. I kept searching for it, and I got barley tea. It's also unsweetened, and it tastes very earthy. Um, it tastes exactly like barley.
Okay.
If you can think of a tea that tastes like barley, like I just went outside in someone's farmland, chopped it up, and then steeped it over some hot water. It tastes exactly like that. Um, if anyone can direct me to these good teas, these delicious teas that have less of an earthy, uh, dirt-like taste to them, I am willing to reconsider. All jokes aside, uh, I do like green tea in moderation, but it has to be very, very hot.
Yeah.
Um, People who drink chilled green tea and chilled barley tea, I don't understand it. Maybe it's my unsophisticated palate, but it's something that currently I'm okay with being wrong about. That's you kept popping it up on me.
I got to tell you, I couldn't. After that happened, buddy, that was like, I gotta come back to this. With our conversation. If you ever make your way to Aichi, which is there's really no reason to go to this town. It's a industrial town. I love it just because I went there with Fulbright, and we toured around. So I have like a location. But they have this like village, this historical village, and in this village they had like this tea uh, ceremony type tea place you could go to. Uh, but probably the best tea that I've had in Japan. And it
Hmm.
was the very like earthy green tea, but it came with like the perfect amount of sugar with it.
Mm.
And it, like, they put it in, and it was just like, buddy, it's like, mwah, like, it was hot, it was everything that I wanted at that point in time, and it's also, when I had, like, 6 of the skinniest chicken wings that I've ever had in my life, but after being in Japan for that point for, like, going on a month, they were, like, some of the best food I've ever had. Both of those things paired together, man, like, oh, I think I've also seen, like, salt tea, was like
Mm.
another one, like, when I was going through. So, there's a variety of stuff, buddy, but yeah, we'll find something else to add. It can be why Mike's wrong too at some time, for this segment. I don't wanna keep you any longer. I know both of us aren't, watching the Super Bowl, but, you do have some games to play, and I will get the Yakuza game, as soon as it hits a sale price. My sister and I have been going hard on Call of Duty, right now, and us just getting that time together. I'm gonna take advantage of it while I can, and
No, no, you got
that's
to
it,
do
man.
it.
That's it.
Did you ever finish The Man Who Erased His
I
Name?
did, and I loved it, man. I loved it.
Ooh.
I loved it, loved it.
Okay. Okay.
There's been so many times I've watched that though, and I like same thing for somebody else that they haven't played it. I'm just like, why? Why are you doing it to this man? Like, why? Why? What does he do? Like, it's just he deserves better. Deserves better, man. So
No, and the fact that you played that, you're going to transition into Infinite Wealth seamlessly. You're not going to miss a step. Um, and I actually want to go back and play The Man Who Erased His Name again, and probably the original Like a Dragon again, because they're just a wonderful kind of like little set of games that kind of really tie together so well, and there's such a huge amount of humanity in each one of them. Um, I didn't have that emotional connection to Kiryu until I played, The Man Who Erased His Name. I was aware of him, and I've seen him. I like him, but they made him they made him the dude
yep.
in the most recent one, and I love it.
Yeah, I played them all. Like, played all the
Mhm.
games, and it's just like, for me, that's my tie, that's my man. You know what I mean? Like, so
Right,
the new guy, I'm having a harder time just because I've spent so many
right.
years, with the other. But I know that I'll come around. I'm like, it's a great game, great series, and like the people that do that, they're doing, God's work for lack of better things. Just like,
Absolutely.
it's the story for all of those just fantastic.
No, they're really great. Did you play Judgment or Lost Judgment?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So I bought both of those. Do you like both of
I
those?
no. I struggled. I struggled, man. Like, I did the first one and I was like, I tried. And when the second one came around again, I was like, I tried again because I really wanted so much to find another series. You know what I mean? Like something by these people that do this. And for me, I just couldn't. It's in there. I can go back to it, but I
Mhm.
just couldn't. I couldn't get going with it.
Yeah, same here. Both of them about 3 hours in, I'm like, ah, and then maybe is it Yagumi? Is that his name? I
I
can't
I
remember.
forget. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's him because he doesn't have that stoic presence like Kiryu, and he doesn't have like the dumb but lovable presence of Ichiban.
Yes.
Um, I I don't I don't know what to say. I'm gonna try to play them again. Um, but Infinite Wealth, Chef's Kiss, man.
Love it, buddy. I'm like, I'll let you know when I finally get to it. Like I said, hopefully this summer with the summer sale that usually comes on
Mhm.
for, PlayStation, that 30% off or whatever it is, like, that'd be good, man. Before we, like go full outro, man, because again, I just wanted to keep this short, not take up too much of your time. Is there anything else you want to share, or are you ready just to ride this train out, buddy?
Anything that I would like to share? I'll end on this. Can it be Japan related?
Yep, better believe it, buddy.
Okay, so I am someone who does not like a lot of Japan YouTube. I think it's not very creative, and I think a lot of the information is regurgitated. If you're someone who has never been to Japan before and you're looking for tips on how you could make that a reality or where you would find yourself, I would ask that you take a very short period of time, doesn't have to be a long period of time, taking a personal stock of what you like to do, who you are, what makes your heart sing before you go looking for Japan activities. Isolate those things that you like, that you love, and then find the Japanese counterparts. Um, if that takes you somewhere off the beaten path, that's wonderful. If it takes you to Tokyo or the other big cities, those overcrowded cities, that's fine too. But there are a lot of people going to Japan who watch this content and they're going on someone else's vacation.
Yeah.
If you're going to be flying across the planet for thousands upon thousands of dollars because not only have accommodations increased in price, flights have increased in price, food has increased in price, all of it's more expensive now. If you're going to be going, go in a truthful manner. Go for yourself and experience your trip. Um, I've been to tourist destinations because I heard they were popular and they didn't connect with me. When I started going to places for me, my trips elevated immensely. So make yourself a priority on your trips. That's my a bit of ending advice.
Love it, buddy. I think we found our song of the show too. Probably have us go out with "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls." It's not Japan related, but yep, 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 yep. No, it's huge, buddy. Find you, do you. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. You know, be true to yourself. And with that, I'm going to ask just for everybody that is listening and made it to this point, thank you. I truly appreciate it. Again, if you want to give any show suggestions for a name for this segment, feel free. But one big ask that I will ask is that our 3-year celebration is coming up. Link to the Google Doc that I made for you to make this as easy and as seamless as possible, where you can either type story of your time in Japan, a favorite moment of the show, or future plans that you have. I'll have in the notes. You can even drag and drop an audio file, my friends. And I would love to hear from you because August is going to be here before we know it. I'm going to try to figure out what I'm going to do with the show. If I'm going to have like you, Maurice, on and just like other people and just kind of have it just be just hanging out together type of moment, what show format that's going to be, but I'd love to include you as well. So, on behalf of Lost Without Japan and its entire crew, I'd like to thank you for joining both of us today. We look forward to seeing you on board again for our next regularly scheduled episode as we continue our discussion on Japan, travel, culture, and your Lost Without moments. To everyone out there, Oginki Day. Stay well, my friends.